Hello everybody, welcome to another Batman miniature game 2nd edition battle report. 350 points of Brave and the Bold versus Joker crew this time. Same table as last time, but I'll mix it up again for the next one. I've got some more buildings I want to try out that are themed around Batman. So we're going to take a look at the two crews that are being used this time, and then we'll take a look at the scenario setup. Basically the same thing. I did get a few rules wrong last time that I spotted myself while editing and such. There's a lot of rules to cover, so that's normal when you're kind of learning the game. So again, if you spot any that go wrong, just point it out politely in the comments and I'll try and remember them in the future. So not too many models on the Brave and the Bold side, but they do have a very large bit of backup. So it's being led by, it sort of runs down the stairs, Batman, but it's the Arkham Asylum Batman this time, not the Arkham Knight one, so his rule set is a little bit different. He's got different passives and I think his gear is largely the same, more or less. He is being backed up by free agent Red Hood Jason Todd, which is the Arkham Knight version. He is doing lethal damage, and he's been upgraded with, I think it was the silencers for his pistols, so he can't take dodge attacks against his ranged attacks because they don't hear them coming. Sidekick is Damian Wayne, and this Damian Wayne uses katanas. Oh, that was a nice yawn you did there, Sora. Uses katanas, but if he's in the presence of his father in a Brave and the Bold team, his blood damage gets converted to stun. Also, he gets the Boy Wonder rule, and he gets True Love Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne gets True Love Damian Wayne, which just means if either one of them become a casualty, the other one kind of goes nuts and gets +1 willpower and +1 strength, I think. Definitely willpower, I don't remember what else. And finally, a huge class model, so even bigger than Bane. This is Goliath, which is Damian Wayne's pet bat dragon. He can't manipulate objectives, which is a bit of a negative, but he is large, he is powerful, he can drag Damian along with him to cover a lot of ground. We'll see how it goes for them, but that is the Brave and the Bold, so let's take a look at the Joker crew. So of course we have the Joker crew being led by Joker. This is the Arkham Asylum Joker. He has a bunch of henchmen, but his free agent at the back there, which is big and obvious, counting as a, I think Clayface is only a large model, he's not counted as a huge, maybe? But Clayface is his free agent. His henchmen, I'm going to try and remember their names. On the right there, that is Dynamite. Then the one with the nail gun is Buffoon. I think this one's just called Whiteface, and this is like Borgin the Cursed, or something like that. Actually, I think he's classed as large, that probably does mean that Clayface is huge as well. So a lot more models on the ground than the Brave and the Bold side, which means the Brave and the Bold are going to have a couple of passes that they can use. We'll go over the scenario next, and then also what objectives both sides have taken. As far as extra equipment, we'll cover that in a second as well. So we're just going through the scenarios in order, so now we're doing scenario 2, which is Plunder. So there's a 4-inch deployment along each one of the edges for each crew, and then the opposing player's deployment zone for their objectives is the one that's closer to the enemy. So deployment zone A, so their loot zone is much further away. So in terms of like objectives, the more the better. 4 victory points to the first player to control 2 objectives in the same turn. 2 of their own objectives, sorry, so it doesn't count if you're capturing the enemy's objectives. If both players achieve it in the same round, then you get nothing. And then 1 victory point if in the last round of the game you control, oh, and they've missed a space there between control and at least one of your own objectives. As far as extra equipment goes, the Brave and the Bold team has Deadly Weapons was the name of the gear bought for Red Hood, which is 150 plus 2 rep. Batman has the upgraded Batsuit for +1 endurance and Kevlar Cowl for crit immunity, so he's immune to the crit dice results. The Joker team has nootropic drugs for Borgin the Cursed, which I think gives him fast and dodge, I think. Joker has nerve gas for himself, which gives him the sturdy role. And also in the Joker bat box, there's one called Why So Serious. It's got no cost associated with it at all, at least on the card, which might be a mistake. It gives Joker the immortal rule, which just means if he dies, he doesn't give victory points. So now we're going to pick objectives and set up the board. So for objectives, the Brave and the Bold team sadly have to use these discs again because I'm still painting up and preparing proper objectives to cover both sides. They took a loot, a Titan container, and a Riddler one, which comes in a set of 2. To make up for them having to use those, they get the actual lampposts and sewer gratings though. Joker's crew, they take those sewer gratings up there. They take a Joker gas canister, which you take in a set of 2. They take an Ace Chemicals barrel, which you take in a set of 2. And an ammo crate by itself. So now it's going to be set up and preparing for the first battle round. So we'll be back in a second for that. Alright, so to give you some idea about deployment zones, this is the 12-inch line marked by these 3 dice here that the objectives have to be placed in. This is obviously 6 inches in. So Joker's crew has to be in this space between these two. Brave and the Bold has to be in the space between these two all the way along the map. So in terms of some sewer markers, there's a sewer marker there, one of the ace chemicals, the ammo, the riddle, the Titan container, the other ace container, got a sewer grating over there as well, another lamp, the loot, and over there the other riddle, next to another sewer grating, and up there we have a Joker canister, and then hidden kind of down here we have another Joker canister. So that's where they are as far as deployment. 4 inches is allowing Batman to start on the roof up there. Red Hood is just kind of down there by the car, and Damien and Goliath are over here. And then we come over here for Joker's side. Joker and Clayface are starting there. We've got the Buffoon with the nail gun there. Bogren is standing on a sewer grating there with Dynamite on his right and Whiteface on his left. So now we're going to reach into the bag, which is just down here. Green is going to be for Joker, pink again for Brave and the Bold. Mixing together, and Brave and the Bold will be going first, assuming they opt to, in Battle Round 1. First activation for the Brave and the Bold, and Goliath was activated, and he has a special rule called Carry, which costs 1 movement and 2 special counters, I believe, and he's only allowed to ever have 1 movement counter. He makes up for it by being huge, which gives him 3 bonus inches on his normal movement of 4. And the rule itself, it just means if he touches a model as he does his move, which he moved from like there-ish, on top of the sewer grating that was here to make sure nobody can get through it, even a large model, he can carry a model he touches with him, and if it's just any person, they can't do any activation. However, if it's Damian Wayne, he still gets his activation with a couple of provisos. Those being that his basic movement drops to 0, so he has to spend movement counters to move at all, and he's not allowed to move to use his back claw. So Damien gets some special exceptions because it says pet carrying him. Put him up the field a little bit, they're right into aiming for claiming some objectives to get those bonus points. Now we're going to see who Joker activates. Joker decided to activate Dynamite, who moved up a little bit, considered moving Bogren first, but he is protecting that sewer grating, and also he has the stupid rule, which Goliath has too. It means they can never manipulate an objective, which I think I covered already. Point being, he moved there. In retort, Batman's crew is going to use one of their passes, which they can do for having so fewer models, so Joker has to go again now with someone else. Joker's next activation, Buffoon, moved up, not quite touching that sewer grating, but just heading in that direction. He's got the Titan container on his left that belongs to the Brave and the Bold, and the Riddler one on his right there. Brave and the Bold side is going to use another pass, because they just want to see where the Clown's crew is going, so Joker has to pick another model to go. And so Joker activated Buffoon with his Whiteface with his blunderbuss, too many B words, over there from the left of the Cursed, and he hopped over the bench and is kind of there. They're pushing forwards down the middle with their henchmen is the basic idea. You're not allowed to pass more than twice in a row, so Brave and the Bold has to go now. And so next, Batman decided to activate, and this Batman can move 10 inches if he maxes out his movement counters. So he could have got right to the edge of the building on the off chance, because it is more likely the Joker's crew gets first turn in Battle Round 2. He did not go right to the edge of the building just so he gets a ping from any gunshots that might come in at him. But he moved up to survey the location. He has a back cape so he can glide down to pretty much wherever he wants to go at no cost, as long as he just has a special counter that could be spent. So back to Joker, who has Joker and Clayface, and Brave and the Bold still just has Red Hood to move. Quick addendum before we cover the next activation. Totally forgot Damien can still go, it's just that he moved because Goliath carried him. Also forgot Borgin the Cursed, who's still sitting on that sewer grating to stop Red Hood getting to him. Either way, Joker's crew activated Clayface next. Clayface is a weird character because he has a couple of upgrades he can apply to himself, but once they're destroyed they're gone for the game. Solid form and mud form, otherwise he's just kind of like in his general kind of gooey form, I guess. Either way, he isn't using any of them yet because they don't have much HP. One of them makes him much more tough in close combat, and one of them lets him kind of root a person at range. His movement is good though, he is a huge model, so his base movement is great and he can put 3 movement counters into move, but he only needed 2, which let him use the 3rd to get to the Titan container and activate it. So not only is he holding it, but he now has a Titan dose, which I'm going to try and remember, or Venom dose, whichever. Going to try and remember and use those this time. So now Brave and the Bold has a choice between Damien and Red Hood. Damian Wayne activated next, and he is limited by how far he can move. He didn't want to move very far anyway, so he moved up to the Ace container, which belongs to Joker's side, but he can still claim it and activate it. So his next close combat attack has the Poison special rule, which is what those Ace chemical containers do. Which also means he's holding it, although the Titan container gives more victory points. But at least he's holding something, so now the Joker either has the Cursed or himself to move. Joker decided that it was relatively safe to kind of hide behind Clayface and move up. He's not claiming any objectives or anything like that, but basically wanting to force Red Hood to do something else by leaving Bergen the Cursed on that sewer grating, which is the one he probably would have wanted to pop out of. So now he's either going to have to pick somewhere else or just move normally because he has to go. I don't think they have a pass. We'll check that in a second. So we did some checking, and the Brave and the Bold side has 3 passes total because they have 3 models to start with compared to Joker's crew's 6. You just can't do more than 2 consecutively. So they opted to use their last pass, which means Bergen the Curse had to go. Wanting to refuse to let Red Hood pop up behind the enemy lines, he activated but just stood still. So he has gone. Red Hood's the last one to go, but that does mean because he's a large model he can't come out of that sewer grating. Could come out of that one, which would be more or less suicide. Other options are a little bit limited. I think he has a grapple gun, but we'll see what he does in a second. The final activation of Battle Round 1, you'll notice that Jason Todd is no longer here. He, after remembering that there's a sewer grating over here, went all the way over here and popped out where Joker and Clayface started. A little bit risky. Joker can obviously make it back to him. Clayface could if he wanted to, although he'd give up claiming the Titan container. But that's not as suicidal as appearing right in the smack dab middle of them all. He's obviously looking for kills as opposed to grabbing objectives. Considered using the backcloth to get over to one of the Joker canisters. Joker canisters are a little bit weird. They only award 1 victory point if you claim them, and if you activate within 2 inches of them, which you're gonna if you're claiming them, you have to do a willpower roll or take blood damage. A willpower roll is you have to roll over or under your willpower on 2d6, and his willpower is 6, so would have been potentially risky giving up the victory point. So there's obviously no stun damage to recap or recover, no knockouts, knockdowns, etc., because there was no combat turn 1, it's basically just positioning. It's just going to come down to points. So just to quickly recap the victory points on offer already, holding the Ace Chemicals container for the Brave and the Bold side gets 1 victory point, and holding the Titan container for Joker's crew gets them 2 victory points. So they are 1 up as we end Battle Round 1. There is nobody holding 2 of their own objectives, because as it happens, Ace Chemicals is Joker's objective, the Titan container is the Brave and the Bold's, so no further towards those 4 juicy victory points for being the first to hold 2 of your own objectives. I assume if you solve one of your own Riddler trophies, it counts as being held because you've solved it. That's a little bit vague. I'm not sure how that would apply. Hopefully it won't come up. Also definitely remembering this time that on first knockout, or plus casualty, if the case may be, those award victory points regardless of the mission parameters, so we'll try and remember to include those this time. Anyway, we're going to move on to Battle Round 2, so let's see who's going to be getting first activation. I think it might be very telling who does. Let's see, we are going to pull out this colour. Joker's getting first activation. So at the top of Battle Round 2, Joker opted to activate Buffoon, I think. Yes, Buffoon is his name, the man with the nail gun. Then decided that his job was to go back and deal with Red Hood. So he moved back. If he moves, his nail gun drops down from 5 shots per active or per magazine to 3. It's assault 3. He can only fire it twice as well unless he gets to ammo. He shot into Red Hood, and 1 nail managed to find its mark and did 1 bleed. I'm going to start to make it more obvious what happened when things get damaged. Red dice for bleed, grey dice for stun. Oh, that's mail going through my door. And give me a fright. And then I'll move them over to the card so I can keep better track. So it's just what happens in the round, not the total, when you see dice next to people like this. So he's taken 1 bleed, he's fine. And now it's over to the Brave and the Bold's activation. So perhaps unsurprisingly, Jason Todd decided to activate for the Brave and the Bold to get some revenge. One note to make is I didn't realise Jason Todd is an acrobat, especially because he's weighed down by armour and guns and whatnot. So had his dice in defence rather than leaving some in movement so he could do the dodging ranged attack. So it's possible if we'd realised could have dodged the 1 nail that got through. Regardless, he shot his dual pistols with no dodging allowed, not that Buffoon could because he's just a lowly henchman. and got 3 hits through. Each hit does a blood and a stun, so that's 3 blood which apply first and then 3 stun. He only has 5 HP? 4 HP. So he is knocked out. He is not dead. He is 1 bleed away from being dead, and Jason Todd can just walk next to someone and kill them. So you might want to do that. Either way, because that's his first knockout, that is, I believe it's just 1 victory point for knocking out a henchman, but that is a victory point to add up at the end of the turn. On to Joker's next activation. Dynamite activated next for Joker's crew, because there's no rush to deal with Jason Todd. He can't activate again this battle round. Dynamite moved up, and although the Riddler objective is the Brave and the Bold, he opted to try and solve it, because even if he failed, it would just mean that there's less victory points on the table for the Brave and the Bold to get, and that's bad for them, because it is a victory points game at the end of the day, not a kill more people type thing, and they have less models, so it seemed like a clever thing to do. That said, with the -1 modifier, because it's not his objective, he got a failure to solve Nigma's riddle, so no victory points, but that does deny Brave and the Bold victory points, so it was still important. Next activation for Brave and the Bold was Goliath, and he's fairly slow if you don't use his fly. He's spec'd out for being ready for combat, so he only had his 4 basic move plus 3 extra for being huge, which got him as far as you can see him. He's kind of in between the Riddler objective and the ammo cache there, heading for Clayface but wasn't able to make it, so now he might be open to reprisal. We'll see as we move on to Joker's next activation. Clayface activated and moved in to have a little talk with Goliath, and activated his solid form, which is here. So it gives his strength a boost from 3+ to 2+. It gives him 4 kind of ablative health, but if he loses that 4 endurance, this form is gone for the rest of the game. In terms of like what else it gives him, well, he already has by default the huge personal trait, but it also gives him tough skin, so he's harder to hurt now. And it gives him the rock, which gives him the overwhelming rule on his physical attacks. That said, Goliath just kind of laughed off. Only 1 damage. Well, Goliath only had 1 defense dice, but that blocked 1 hit. Managed to roll a 1 on another one of Clayface's attacks. Only 1 attempted a wound and did not manage to get through. So Goliath's just kind of standing there, confused. That said, the way Clayface moved, he also moved so that he would be contesting the ammo box there should anyone, for instance Damien, try to claim it for points. So it was a tactical move on more than 1 level. Now, let's see what the Brave and the Bold do in retort. He's getting a little bit busy down there, but Damien activated next and used his back claw to get right over to both contest the ammo cache objective and also fight Clayface with his katana, which he can combo with, so for every 2 attacks he makes with it he gets a bonus 1, similar to Nightwing's fighting sticks. Didn't even need to use the tough skin that Clayface's form gave him. He had 2 defense dice and that was enough to negate the 2 attacks that managed to hit, so they're all locked in combat and otherwise totally fine, no damage dealt to anyone involved. Joker's still got 4 potential activations and Batman has 1, being the man himself, so we'll see what happens next. So an interesting activation for Joker, he used his natural movement to move up and claim the Titan container. He also used it to get a Venom dose. He then opted to sow a little bit of chaos, because that's kind of what he does, and he threw his electric teeth, or is it electric teeth, what are they called? Explosive teeth, sorry. Explosive teeth. He threw his explosive teeth at Goliath. Got the hit roll, which means it's a 2-inch bubble all around him, hitting friend or foe, but Joker doesn't care. And also Clayface can regenerate, so there is that. He got hits on all of them. He got an extra stun from a crit on the collateral dice as well, so Goliath took 2 stun and a bleed, Damien took 1 stun, 1 bleed, and Clayface took 1 stun, 1 bleed. All of them did. That's kind of just what the Joker does. So Batman is either going to activate now and then let the rest of Joker's clowns do what they will, or he's going to use his passes, we'll see. So next, Batman did decide to use 1 pass, so Whiteface the clown activated. He hopped on over here and claimed the loot, so he's now got the loot in his possession. That's not one of his objectives again, but hey, might as well, it was right there. Batman then used his other pass, so Borgin the Cursed took the sewers and is now over here, right behind the melee going on over there. So now Batman has to activate and see what he's going to do as the final action of Battle Round 2. Batman decided to activate, and this Batman has the mixed combat style special rule, which allows him to do a free ranged attack in his activation and still do a physical attack, so hopefully this was done correctly. From his vantage point, he threw his batarangs at the Whiteface, did 2 stun, no sorry 3 stun because of the crit dice being a 6, leaving him on 2. He then used some of his movement, back-caped his way down, used the rest of his movement, got into close combat, did 4 more stun, and knocked Whiteface out with ease. So that's the loot dropped. He doesn't claim it because it's sitting on the floor, but at least Joker's crew doesn't have it, and that's another KO for another victory point. So now we're going to do the recap phase, see if people recover from stun, and see what victory points, if any, were earned in Battle Round 2. So the recap for Battle Round 2, a quick addendum. I was reading the poison drone. The poison granted by Ace Chemicals doesn't only happen on a crit. So when Damien landed hits on Clayface, even though the damage was blocked by him, the poison still applies, I believe. So at Clayface's next activation, he has to pass an endurance roll, I think. Endurance or willpower, one of the two. If he doesn't, it does 1 bleed and stays on him until he can cure it by passing that roll. So that's something to try and remember. In terms of stun recoveries, Goliath recovered a stun, Damien did not, Clayface did not. The clown over here did not wake up, so he's still unconscious. The clown that Batman just knocked out, however, did wake up, so he's got 1 health left, and he can stand up on his activation, and he does have a gun, so it might be... and this is all assuming that you can recover at the end of an activation, or at the end of a battle round in which you were knocked out. I believe you can. In terms of victory points, the Brave and the Bold got 2 knockouts, so that's on Henchmen. The quality of the model knocked out imparts more victory points, Henchmen only give 1. So a total of 2 points gained. The ammo is being contested by both sides, so that gives nothing. Joker holds the Titan container though, so that's another 2, meaning that everything is still even as we are going to see who starts round 3. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, it kind of happened. It could go either way because we've had 1 turn for each of them first. It's going to be Joker. Joker starts next in Battle Round 3. Apologies for another additional addendum before going into the next battle round, but misunderstood how the takedown rule works, which Jason Todd Red Hood has. I thought you had to be in base-to-base contact with a knocked out model and you could just spend a counter to execute them. That's not how it works. It's if you have a special counter to spend at the point in which you knock them out, via ranged attack or close combat in his case. Similar again to the Arkham Knight game, he just shoots them when he knocks them down. That's my mistake. Definitely wanted to do it. Can't remember if when it happened he had a counter in special. It's unlikely he did, but had I known how takedown would have worked, obviously would have done it. So in the efforts of fairness, just going to say he's removed. So the buffoon clown is dead, which means another extra victory point for killing a henchman. So for the first activation of Battle Round 3, Joker decided to cause some more disarray by doing the exact same thing again, throwing his explosive teeth at Goliath, and then also the resulting explosion catching Damien and Clayface in it. He hit all of them, or rather, he only needs to hit his original target and then it's like wound rolls for the rest of them. He did 1 blood and 1 stun to Clayface, 1 blood and 1 stun to Goliath, 1 blood, 1 stun plus a 6 on the collateral die, so 1 bonus stun to Damien, which was enough to knock him out. Very unfortunate for Brave and the Bold there. He's not dead, but he is knocked out. It wasn't without consequence though, because Clayface has also now taken enough damage that his solid form buff was destroyed. He can't use it again. He's down to just his natural stats. He can still use his mud form if he wants, but that also comes with different positives and negatives. Either way, Joker did some damage there. Let's see how Brave and the Bold react. So for the Brave and the Bold, Red Hood activated and used his Batclaw to make the distance in order to hopefully get some revenge against the Riddler finally. The Riddler? Joker. What am I talking about? Unfortunately, he rolled very poorly on his 4 attacks. 1 got through. Joker had 4 in defense, easily blocked with 3 of them. So no damage done there. He is now stopping Joker from holding that objective though. It's counted as contested, so it gives up no victory points. So now it's just Batman to go for the Brave and the Bold, but Joker still has Dynamite and Borgin the Cursed. His turn anyway, to pick one of those two to do something with. Silly me forgetting that Clayface also hasn't gotten this activation, so he did, and he struck into Goliath. Goliath, despite having tough skin, which makes it harder to wound him, up to a 4+ from Clayface's 3+. Clayface got 2 stun and 2 more blood through. Goliath has 10 endurance though, so he's currently on 2, 4, 6, he's on 8. Half and half of blood and stun. So time is running out for him, so I don't think Brave and Bold are going to get the chance to use their passes, because if Goliath wants to do anything, he's going to have to do it now. And so Goliath did activate and he tried to strike back and he just rolled horrifically with his hit rolls. Only 1 attack got through, which Clayface then easily defended. He is able to move after attacking if he starts his turn with, or his activation rather, with an attack. However, in moving away he would be letting Clayface claim the ammo objective, which gives up a lot of points, and also potentially opening up Damien to be getting a coup de grace from the Cursed over there. So he opted to just stay there and hopefully weather the blows. We'll see if that's what happens as we move on. So Bogren the Cursed activated, and his weapon has reach as well, so he got into contact with the Ace Chemicals barrel, then using reach, which just gives his weapon like 2 inches of range so he doesn't need to be in base to base, clobbered Goliath in the back of the skull and did 6 bleed. Goliath, I'm genuinely surprised he only has 2 defense. It seems like it should be higher than that. Also, to be fair though, every roll he has made this game has been just hot garbage. Ridiculously unlucky. In fact, the Brave and the Bold in general have been very unlucky, which if you, well, you'll know from 40k if you play that. If you run a very elite kind of heavy army, and this crew is kind of like the Batman equivalent of that, if you just have a bad day where you're rolling terrible, you're doomed from the start, because any mistake is so much more costly, or anything that just goes bad. And in this case, Goliath is now a casualty. It's, I mean, I refer to being casualties as like dying, but in the game terms, it's really just that they're retreating because they're worried about dying. Either way, Goliath is gone, he is removed. Damien's still there but unconscious. And either Batman's going to take his activation next or pass, we'll see. So Batman chose to activate and he used his mixed combat style again. I don't know if this is possible within the rules, but he opted to use his ranged attack on the Whiteface Clown, because the Whiteface Clown did wake up, it's just he hasn't activated yet, so he's lying on the floor but awake. So he threw his other remaining Batarang at him, did more stun damage, and presumably knocked him out again. If a model's already been knocked out once, it doesn't impart another victory point for being knocked out, only if it becomes a casualty. So it doesn't give any more victory points, but it does once again remove him as a threat. He'd have to, like last time to wake up he rolled double ones, we'll see though. And then he used his close combat attacks against Dynamite and absolutely destroyed him. He did also pick up the loot. So Batman is holding the loot. Dynamite is knocked out, which means there's no one left for Joker's crew to activate either, so now we have to go into recap and recovery. At the end of battle round 3, neither clown was able to wake up, neither was Damien, so there was no recoveries there. In terms of objectives held, Bogren the Cursed holds Ace Chemicals. Because Damien's unconscious, Clayface holds the ammo container. Because Red Hood and Joker are both conscious, nobody is claiming that Titan container, and Batman is claiming the loot. Now, Joker's side also now controls 2 of its own objectives, which as per the scenario gives them 4 bonus victory points, so I think it's 14 plays 6 right now. So it might not even be possible for the Brave and the Bold to bring this back unless they just get a fly-out tabling. We'll see what happens though, we need to work out who's going first. It's in the favour of the Brave and the Bold, but we'll see. It is. Brave and the Bold going first in turn 4. So to open battle round 4, Batman activated for the Brave and the Bold and did a pretty clever turn. He backclawed over here, he used his one smoke bomb and threw it at Clayface. The reason for that is that until the end of the turn, it does a little bubble where you can't use ranged weapons, and anybody caught in the smoke has to hit on a 6. So he's basically trying to make sure that they can't kill Damien, although they'll still probably try. Which would be bad because he also has the invaluable special rule, which means he gives up an extra victory point if he does in fact be made a casualty. He then struck Joker with some of his attacks and managed to get just 1 through because the roll was pretty bad again. Did 2 stun to Joker, he didn't use his defense dice, he's saving them for the Red Hood. So that was, it was fair, a fair amount. We'll see what Joker's crew does next. Finally, Joker's crew had a bit of a bad activation. Joker himself activated, he opted to use his Switchblade, which has crit poison on it, and attacked Red Hood because he hasn't gone yet. But finally he managed to whiff for a change. It's the first time Joker's crew's had such a bad roll, so he did nothing. He's just standing there. Opted not to rush to doing this because it's not like they can stop anything that's going to attempt to happen here happen. But now it's Red Hood rather to activate unless he opts to pass for now, we'll see. Continuing disasters, the Red Hood activated, he has 4 attacks, he needs 4s to land the hits on Joker, missed with all of them. However, because Joker is outnumbered in combat, he suffers a -1 to defense, which meant one of them got through because it was a 3. Joker was still sitting on 4 defense dice because he let Batman get the 2 stun through without trying to block them. So he just rolled 4 against it, 4 different chances to negate the damage, and did so. He did nothing. So now all that's left is Clayface and Bogren the Curse. Bogren the Curse is just going to claim that objective, so it's just down to whether or not Clayface, who's just going to shuffle along to here, can coup de grace Damien while in the smoke. So we'll be back with that in a second. At the end of Clayface's activation, he was unable to initiate a coup de grace on Damien, didn't even need the smoke bomb, just missed because apparently it doesn't hit automatically. Might be wrong. Well, even if it didn't, the wound rolls would also have not been high enough regardless, because he has a defense value of 4, I think. Well, either way, didn't kill him. So straight on to turn recap. Joker recovered one of his stun. Both clowns who are knocked out did not wake up. Damien, however, did wake up, so he is now conscious. He's still knocked over. I don't remember if he's an acrobat, so whether or not he can just stand up for free. But he is awake. So now all that remains to see is who begins battle round 5. Ooh, it is Joker who gets to go first. We'll see what happens. So to start battle round 5, Clayface activated in order to try and kill Damien before he could stand up. I'm not sure whether or not you're allowed to use defense counters issued if you're on the ground but awake. Because he is knocked over, but he is also conscious. So I did it like he could use his defense dice and he survived. But if that was wrong, he would have been dead. So that might be one way or another. I don't think it's going to affect the outcome of the game, but that is something I'd probably like some clarification on. So either way, Damien is now still conscious and able to stand up. We'll see if he does next. So rather than Damien activating, because it's pretty much a lost cause, I feel Batman activated unleashed his 5 attacks on Joker, who had to use his 4 full defense, so he has none left to defend. Rolled 2 2s and 2 1s on his defense, so all of them got through, and Batman did 6 stun damage to him. Now thankfully, because he recovered 1 stun at the end of the last turn, he is sitting on 1 HP remaining, but he is hurting, and now he has no defense dice left, so he might take the opportunity to try and do some damage before potentially going down. We'll see. Joker activated and used his stiletto knife against Red Hood and did pretty well, managed to get 2 blood through against him, but didn't knock him down or made him a casualty or anything like that. So Red Hood is able to strike back when he chooses to, but we might make Damien go next, we'll see, because he still needs to get out of trouble in case Borgren the Curse decides to go for the coup de grace instead of holding the Ace Chemicals. We'll see. Damien did indeed activate and with impaired movement hopped over the objective, so he's still contesting it against Clayface, but was trying to put some distance between him and Borgren the Cursed, who's the last person to go for the Joker crew. He has to make a decision, as we were saying before. Claim that objective for 1 additional victory point, potentially go out because his axe has reach as well. He just needs to clamber over here and then try and swing at Damien from the far side of the ammo cache. If he gets him, then victory is all but assured. If he doesn't, he's giving away 1 victory point, still could potentially make it up in the last turn though. We'll see what happens. When the Cursed opted to stay still just to hold Ace Chemicals for an easy victory point, not because he didn't think he could take out Damien, it's because he didn't want Batman powered up for his final turn with that +1 willpower, +1 strength that would easily give him the very high probability of taking out either him or Clayface. Plus Clayface can probably do it himself on the final turn of the game. So he skipped his turn to hold the objective. That meant Red Hood, Jason Todd, he got enough damage through to knock Joker down. This time remember to keep a point in specials, so he activated Takedown, and despite Batman being right there, Jason Todd could not contain his anger and executed the Joker. Now again, as I said at the top, in the Joker crew bat box, he comes with an apparently free special rule you can give him called Why So Serious, which specifically says it gives him the Immortal trait, and that rule says he does not award victory points for being made a casualty. However, he does award victory points for being knocked out and being a leader that was knocked out. So that will still impart points. Jason then moved up, so he's claiming the Titan container. So that is the end of the battle round. We'll do some recapping and see what happens and what the scores are looking like for the final turn. So the penultimate turn has ended, and here's the recap as it stands. Damien did not recover any stun. Joker's obviously been removed as a casualty. Dynamite did not wake up. However, for the second time this game, and this is no joke, Whiteface the Clown rolled a double 1, so once again he is conscious and can stand up on the final turn. He won't have many markers to do anything, but he is able to move, so we'll see what happens. In terms of victory points gained, the ammo box is being contested. However, Ace Chemicals gives 1 point to Joker's crew. Titan Container gives 2 victory points to the Brave and the Bold. Making Joker a casualty gives 2 victory points. Don't get any extra for making him a casualty, which would have been 4 more, sadly. And Batman holds loot, so that is an additional 1 point, which I believe means going into the final turn there is a 4-point deficit for the Brave and the Bold. And we already know, we go back to the bag here, that it has to be the Brave and the Bold that take the final the first activation rather, on the final turn. So the final turn begins with the activation of Damian Wayne, who opts to move away from the ammo cache. And he used his normal movement to move next to the riddle. He solved it, got a 5, which is 2 victory points. And I believe this is okay because then he used a bit of gear. He used his back claw to grapple to safety up here. So we did, in the other game we played with the Bane crew, we did like a partial stop to do an activation, or to do a manipulation of an objective, then a carry on of the same move. That is not allowed, as it turns out. However, I think this is allowed because you're activating a bit of gear to get the 8 inches required to jump up the building. Presumably that's okay. I think because you're activating a bit of kit it is okay, but I couldn't find a definitive answer. So that riddle was now obviously gone, but it has been solved. So 2 victory points go to the Brave and the Bold. And now we'll see which of these two are going to do something. Almost forgot about old Whiteface the Clown over here waking up. He stood up to his feet, spending a counter to do so because he was conscious again. Said, hey, remember me? And shot his blunderbuss into Batman's back, which is from that line of sight. He would have had a ping roll from the tree. Didn't matter though because he missed with both hits. Again, presuming that he's allowed to fire at full shots, not rate of fire, that's the term I'm looking for, rather than just one because he stood up rather than move. He's not able to do anything else. That was just a cheap shot at Batman to see if he could take him out, and he failed. So next activation, and quickly going to cover a couple of things. There is rules in the rulebook for once a crew loses a certain percentage of its total starting amount. There's kind of like a flee mechanic, a run away and just end the game thing. I've never seen anybody play using that, and I'm not going to use it here either. It's a fight to the finish one way or the other, a tabling, to use 40k terms. If it needs to happen, will happen. So just ignoring that for the purposes of things. The other thing to cover is, once again, I was forgetting the Just a Scratch rule, which has come into play here, which I thankfully remembered at the last second. Didn't do that at all in the Brave and the Bold versus Bane game, because just didn't realise. The Just a Scratch rule is that if you land a hit with a ranged attack, but then fail the wound, not as a result of a ping roll presumably, but just if you failed the wound naturally, you still do 1 stun. It's because you did technically hit with a ranged attack, it's just you didn't do lethal damage. So Jason Todd shot his dual pistols into Clayface's back, only got 1 hit all the way through for 1 bleed, 1 stun. However, he missed with 1 successful hit, so that turned into an additional stun. So he did 2 stun, 1 bleed in total. Clayface already had 1 bleed carried over on him, so he's down to 2 HP remaining. Although he can activate his other form to get 3 ablative HP, which he might do right now. So Clayface has activated. He wants to hold the ammo container though, or at the very least contest it against Batman. So he didn't move. He did, however, change his form to Mud form, which gave him 3 ablative HP, gave him the permanent traits Huge, which again he has by default, so I don't know why they bothered writing that. Roots, which I think affects models close to him, and the Mud special attack, which does slow, but that only affects models that activate when they're within an inch of him, or base contact. Yeah, they have to be in base contact, so it doesn't do anything there. He's just doing it for the HP to try and survive. And now we'll see what Batman does on his final activation. So Batman has activated. He charged Clayface in an effort to try and take him out. He gets 5 attacks if you max out his attack stat. Rolled 5 dice, did really well with his attacks. Clayface did very badly with his defense. However, the wound rolls leave a lot to be desired. Got a crit result on the collateral dice and 1 actual wound, which did 3 stun in total, which was enough to take out his Mud form that he just activated, so that's done and dusted for the game. But it still leaves him on 2 natural HP. So he's conscious, so at the very least Batman has contested the objective, but he hasn't claimed it. Borgren the Cursed is just going to stay there, and Batman is too far away to be struck by his reach weapon, just to get the extra point. Not sure if that's going to make the difference or not, so we're just jumping straight to the recap, because it doesn't matter about stuns or anything like that. Let's see who won. So to recap, at the end of the game, Borgren the Cursed holds the Ace Chemicals. The ammo is contested, so that awards nothing. Batman is holding successfully onto loot, and Red Hood is successfully holding onto the Titan container. Also, Damian did solve that riddle for 2 victory points. There's also the second bonus objective available for the scenario 2 that we were playing, which is if at the end of the game you hold one of your own objectives, you get 1 bonus victory point. So Red Hood and Borgren have that covered, so that's an additional 1 point each. And if the maths is right, The Brave and the Bold lucked out, and that equals a 17 victory point to 17 victory point draw, which was the best they could hope for in this situation because they were suffering. Both because they just had so few models on the ground, and one of the models they brought doesn't even claim or can't manipulate objectives. So Goliath was underwhelming. I can't believe how bad his defense is. It's just he got beat up. I guess maybe he's kind of glass cannon-y. He didn't really get the chance to unleash his damage potential. The rolls for the Brave and the Bold were terrible throughout, honestly. Joker's crew started to suffer a little bit at the end, but by then they had a sizable lead, so the ability to come back and make it a draw at the very least was dramatic. Not ideal, but again, if you notice anything that may have been done wrong, by all means please let me know, and if you can also point to like specific rulebook pages, that would be excellent. Hope you enjoyed watching. There will be more to come, including some tabletop versions of games being played using different crews that I don't have the models for. Anyway, yes, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching. Come back for more Batman or 40k soon, and ta-ta for now.